Okay, very good. All right, so super excited to be here today. Today we're going to talk about content to cash flow. We're going to talk about how to why some people actually stay broke while others turn content into cash flow. Because content is not just about posting more; it's definitely it's about having some intention and some strategies around your actual your actual content. So all right, let's get started. So, January 2004, I turned 30 and it hit me. I was done. I was done. Done dating casually, done just having girlfriends, done repeating the same patterns that never led to a meaningful relationship. I was at the stage of my life where I wanted somebody who was serious. I wanted to move to the next stage of my life where I was looking for somebody to have a long term relationship and potentially move into getting married and that stage of my life. So, because I had just turned 30, right? What I truly wanted now was a different, a serious relationship, a life partner, someone to love and build a future with. So, as soon as I stepped into my 30s, I approached dating intentionally and strategically. I knew exactly what I was looking for, who I wanted to attract, and how I needed to show up. Creating content is the same way. Random posts, likes, and shares might get attention, but they won't attract the right people. Strategic, intentional content crafted to position value, build trust, and move the right audience is what turns attention into action. Most entrepreneurs think posting content is enough. They create content because they should or because everyone else is posting, but that rarely produces cash flow. Imagine an entrepreneur posting every single day. They share tips, quotes, memes, random updates, and views, and likes come in, but no sales. Their audience grows, but their bank account doesn't. Now imagine a different entrepreneur. They post content that tells stories of client transformations, shares lessons from mistakes, highlights wins, and positions themselves as the solution for a specific audience that has a specific problem that wants a specific payoff. People start commenting, DMing, asking questions. The audience leans in, trusts them, and the right buyers start asking, how can I work with you? Right. And that's why today matters. That's why today we're talking about why some people stay broke while others turn content into cash flow. Content is not just about posting more, it's about demonstrating authenticity, building authority, and creating awareness. The right content repels those who are not your ideal client and attracts those who are, and builds trust and demand, turning browsers into buyers. Those who turn content into cash flow do not just post consistently, they create content strategically with intention, focus, and alignment to their offers. Some entrepreneurs stay broke because they use content like a diary, a hobby, or a random activity. Others turn content into cash flow because they use it to drive results, not just visibility. Content is not king if it does not convert. Let me repeat that. Content is not king if it does not convert. The principle is very, very simple. Create content that moves people, not just entertains or informs. So before you post, ask yourself, does this content build my authority? Does it deepen trust with the audience? Does it create demand for my offer? Does it move the right buyer closer to taking action? Welcome everyone today to the Anywhere Entrepreneur Live. Again, we are all about the freedompreneur way, the freedom to live, to work, to earn from anywhere. And today we're diving into content that converts clients into cash flow because that is a key part of achieving the freedompreneur lifestyle. Last live, we were actually in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and we talked about how the rich build riches. They know how to position their offer so that it feels easy to buy. We covered positioning the problem, positioning the payoff, positioning the person, positioning the process, and positioning your price in context of value. Because once you know how to position the offer, the next question becomes, how do you actually use content to make the market lean in? How do you create content that builds authority, builds trust, and creates real demand for what you're actually selling? That is what today is about. I am coming to you from Malaysia, actually in my studio home in Malaysia now. I just got here a couple of days ago, flew into Singapore and drove into Malaysia. And by the end of this live, I want you to know exactly why some content creates cash flow and some content creates nothing. How to think about content as a trust building and demand building tool, and how to create content that actually moves people, not just reaches people. Because when content is strategic, content becomes cash flow. If you're ready to stop posting aimlessly and start creating content that moves your business forward, type in the comment section cash flow in the comments. And if you're here live right now watching, or you're watching this in the future here, type on the comment section where you're actually tuning in from. We are generally interested in where you're actually at. We're interested in where you are actually are in terms of your journey, and then where is it that you actually want to go. So you tuning in knows exactly kind of where you're actually tuning in from for us. Okay, so now before I teach this, let's talk about your resistance, or most people's resistance to creating content the right way. Because most entrepreneurs do not want to hear that the problem may not be the algorithm, right? They would rather believe Instagram is broken, Facebook is dead, YouTube is too crowded, nobody is seeing my stuff, people just want entertainment, the market is saturated. No, my friends, because the truth is very, very simple. The issue is not that your content is invisible. The issue is that your content is not intentional. That is why and where people resist. Because if content is not creating cash flow, then now you have to face harder questions. Is this content building authority? Is my content building trust? Is my content creating demand? Is my content moving the buyer toward a next step with me? Or am I just posting to feel productive? These types of questions are uncomfortable, because now content is no longer about posting for posting's sake. Now content becomes a more purposeful activity. And the stakes here are high, my friends. If your content is random, you will get views without buyers, get engagement without movement, get attention without trust, get followers without cash flow, and stay frustrated because you are visible but not valuable in the market's eyes. Repeat that. You stay frustrated because you are visible but not valuable in the market's eyes. So content strategically created matters, because content can either become a bridge to cash flow or a distraction from it, right? So last live was about positioning the offer, but this live is about what pulls people toward that offer, because a well positioned offer still needs demand, and content is one of the main ways demand gets built. That is why today matters, and that is what today is about. So the key to turning content into cash flow is clarity plus strategy plus consistency. It's not about quantity, it's about purposeful content. So let me give you the framework for today. Strategic content does three things: it builds authority, it builds trust, it builds demand. That is what turns content into cash flow. Authority makes people say, you know what you're talking about. Trust makes people say, I believe you can help me. Demand makes people say, I want what you offer. If your content is not doing those three things, then it may be creating attention, but it is not creating momentum. Today, I want to walk you through how basically content moves the buyer, right? So let's start with the very first part. Um, the very first part is content that builds authority. Authority content shows people that you understand. You understand the problem, you understand the process, you understand the path that they're looking for, you understand the principles that are timeless, and the payoff that they actually want, right? This can happen through teaching content, framework content, myth busting content, mistake based content, how to content, belief shifting content. Authority content answers the question, why should I listen to you? This is not about sounding smart, it is about being clear, right? Again, it's about being clear, because when people experience clarity through your content, they start to associate you with leadership. That is authority, right? So imagine this: the first entrepreneur post, random tips on LinkedIn, people scroll past, no DMs, no leads, right? Compared to the second who posts how they solved a problem for a client, lessons from mistakes that they made, their unique framework for solving an industry challenge, suddenly people notice, they comment, they engage, and trust grows. That is authority in action. Because once your content starts helping the buyer think better, they stop seeing you as just another creator and they start seeing you as a guide, and a guide that can help them be the hero. Content that creates clarity creates authority. People trust the person who can explain the problem better than they can explain it themselves, right? So now let's go to the second part: content that builds trust. Authority alone is not enough. A lot of people know things, few are trusted. A lot of people know things, fewer are trusted. Trust building content helps people feel understood, safe, seen, connected, and emotionally certain. This can happen through storytelling, client stories, origin stories, lesson stories, behind the scenes content, vulnerable truth content, value with personality. Tr- Trust answers the question, can I believe you? This is where people stop seeing you as just informative and start seeing you as credible and human, most importantly, and human. Think about it this way: some people some posts are flashy, but shallow. People like them for a moment and then they forget them, right? They might be funny, they might be interesting, but people forget them, right? And when you share real stories, real failures, lessons, wins, client breakthroughs, people start trusting you. So, for example, 2018, I lost $5 million, and I tell that story. I tell the story of um, after 15 years of entrepreneurship, made some really aggressive decisions and lost $5 million. So I needed to find a vehicle. I needed to find a vehicle to get into that will be able to uh, make me. I can make the money back as fast as possible. So um, I went to learn how to get onto the online space, because I started seeing all these people building services, products, coaching offers, consulting offers, courses, and people are doing seven figures, multi seven figures, eight figures. I'm like, that's the vehicle. That's the vehicle. So I left my what we call an ordinary world and went to my call to adventure to learn how to be an online business entrepreneur. So I had to learn this new vehicle. So I met a guide. I started learning how to do it from multiple people, and fast forward, a year later, we grew our very first seven figure business, and we grew it again the next year, and the year after, and the year after, and then here 6 years later, we have now surpassed eight figures, and dug ourselves out of the hole, and now starting to come back from that. Right? I share that because now I help people build wealth, right? So I am what we call a wealth and freedom coach. So I have went through, came out the other side, right? And is the hero of my own journey. And now am qualified to step into the role of a guide, right? So by telling that story, now you're like, oh my God, like this person um, gets it, right? They're not just teaching theory. They're not just teaching something randomly. They actually went through it and they did the work. They went through the steps and they overcame their biggest challenge. And now they're coming out the other side to solve their own problem, and they can actually help people solve theirs, either avoid mistakes that they made or right speed up their success. Right, when people that happen, that people start to trust you because you're now human. Right, they see you as credible, human, and capable of delivering results. Trust is built before they ever see your offer. So here's your test: can you tell the truth without trying to impress? Can you share value without hiding your personality? Can you show proof without sounding fake? Can you build connection without losing clarity? Your allies in this are going to be storytelling, transparency, proof, consistency, humanity, emotional honesty, alignment between message and lifestyle. Your enemies in this are going to be generic content, copycat content, trying too hard to sound polished, never sharing proof, never sharing stories, sounding robotic or disconnected. Authority gets attention, trust gets commitment. People buy faster when they feel understood, not just informed. Okay. And then the third part is content that builds demand. This is where most entrepreneurs miss it. They create authority content, maybe even trust content, but they do not create desire. Demand building content makes the buyer feel, I want that. I need that. I am tired of staying here. I am ready for the next step. This can happen through problem agitation, could be done through payoff amplification, before and after content, transformational stories, urgency content, consequence content, invitation content, content that shows what happens if they move and what happens if they don't, right? Imagine a first business post content that educates but never moves anyone toward action. Second business creates content that links to their offer, shows results, and positions the transformation. um, your audience begins to really start asking, right? The audience that sees that type of post, how can I work with you with this business? That is demand. That is content creating cash flow. That this is where the ordeal gets either revealed or exposed because many people are comfortable teaching. Fewer are comfortable creating desire. Why? Because creating demand means you must be willing to agitate the pain, elevate the payoff, show the gap, and invite the next step. That feels riskier and that feels really, really uncomfortable. But without demand, constant content stays information, right? Without demand, content stays informational. And information without desire rarely creates cash flow. Authority makes people listen, trust makes people stay, and demand makes people move. If your content never creates desire, do not be surprised when your audience stays interested but inactive. Let us know in the comment section which part of your content do you think needs the most work right now? Is it your authority content, your trust content, or your demand content? Drop in the comment section. We definitely want to know because here's the truth. Content is not about posting more, it is about moving people. This changes conversion and creates more cash flow because once you understand that, you stop asking, what should I post today? What will get likes? What trend should I follow? And you start asking, what does my buyer need to believe next? What kind of content will build authority? What kind of content will deepen trust? What kind of content will create demand? That is the truth that you actually go back into your business with and stop treating content like a creative chore. Content is not a creative chore. And you start treating it like a strategic asset. That is when content stops being random. And that's uh, where content starts becoming revenue, right? When it stops becoming random, it starts becoming revenue. All right. So let's get practical. After this slide, your assignment is very, very simple. Take out a piece of paper and take one of your pieces of content that you actually plan to post this week. Write down, how does it position you as an authority, this piece of content? How does it build trust with your audience? How does it create demand for your offer? Who is this content for? What action do you want them to actually take next with you? Then ask yourself, am I creating content with intention, or am I just posting to stay visible? If your content is not building authority, trust, and demand, then that is your next fix, right? So before posting, ask yourself, does this content show my expertise? Does this make the audience trust me? Does it create desire for my offer? Will the right buyers see themselves in this content? Stop creating content for activity and start creating content for movement. So my message today is very, very simple. Some people stay broke while others turn content into cash flow. The difference is not just consistency, it is strategy. Strategic content turns posts into profits. Random content turns posts into noise. The people who turn content into cash flow know how to use content to build authority, build trust, and build demand. That is what moves buyers. That is what makes the market lean in. That is what turns visibility into revenue, because content that only gets attention is incomplete. But content that creates authority, trust, and demand becomes a cash flow asset. That is how you stop posting randomly and start posting richly, right? Stop posting randomly and start posting richly. So let us know in the comment section, what was your biggest takeaway from today? Was it authority, trust, or demand? Drop your biggest takeaway. Which content um, was your actual biggest takeaway that will move the needle in your actual business to turn content into actual cash flow? So if this message spoke to you, and if you know it is time to stop posting randomly and start turning your content into cash flow, drop cash flow in the comments as well. And if you want to go deeper, I am actually going to invite you to join us at our Dream Life, Dream Business Challenge, where we'll show you exactly how to create content that builds your authority, deepen trust with the right audience, generate demand that leads directly right into your offers, help you also create your offers as well, and how to actually sell and make your offers. The link is actually will be in this comment section as well below. So again, we invite you to join our Dream Life, Dream Business Challenge. So the next slide, we're going to build on this, my friends, because once you understand how to use content to build authority, trust, and demand, the next question becomes, how do you build a personal brand that makes selling easier? Next slide's title is how to get more money, build a personal brand that makes selling easier. Because the truth is, people do not just buy offers. They buy from people they know, they like, they trust, they want, and remember. So if today was about content strategy, next slide is about building the kind of personal brand that makes a sale easier before you ever make the offer, right? You do not want to miss that. And for those of you who are joining us at our Dream Life, Dream Business Challenge, I look forward to seeing you there. Have an amazing rest of the week. We will see you guys soon.